Hey guys, welcome to another movie review. Today I'm going to be talking about the latest Clint Eastwood film called The Mule. The Mule is based off a real event about this man who liked to garden. He had all these different kind of jobs. A lot of these jobs that he had involved driving from place to place, delivering things. And one day, while he's kind of struggling with money, he's basically um, not being able to afford this gardening business that he's been running for all these years. He starts looking into work. He hears about a job from a friend of his granddaughter, and it's basically a driving job where you drive to this tire place. They give you this bag full of stuff. You drop it off at this given address that they give you on a phone, on a GPS feature, and you get some money. You go home, wait for the next delivery to come in for you to drop off pretty much. So basically Clint Eastwood's character takes this job right away since he's done so many driving jobs in the past. It's pretty easy for him at first. He's not very tech savvy, so he's trying to learn about smartphones, learn about GPS systems, but he does have a good knowledge of the road, so whenever they give him an address somewhere, he seems to know where it is right away. But basically, time goes on, there's multiple runs, there's multiple deliveries, so basically, Clint Eastwood's character starts to get interested as to what he's delivering all the time, why he's getting so much money for it, and as it turns out, and it's not a spoiler, it's literally in like the first 30 seconds of the trailer, probably. Um, He's basically dropping off drugs for a drug cartel. That's basically big pounds of cocaine. And so basically, this gang is already in trouble as it is. And so Clint Eastwood's character eventually comes to a crossroads of, does he turn himself in? Does he basically expose the gang? But is the money good enough where he kind of wants to keep this a secret, wants to keep this going, still earn some money, get back his gardening business, and help out his community and stuff like that? Reconnect with his family, which he's already kind of lost trust with over the years. He's kind of always chose work over family at several different occasions. So throughout the course of this film, he has to make very big decisions because if he makes the wrong one, it could cause him time behind bars. But if he keeps making money, he can still make his goals, but do it illegally and kind of cheat himself to those goals. So overall, guys, I really like The Mule a lot. Clint Eastwood has directed and acted in several different films over the course of several decades. He's definitely one of the last few real like film pioneers left in the sense that he's really worked in the film business for decades and he's made tons of different films, directed tons of different films, and so he's really kind of been everywhere in the film business. He's definitely up there with like a Robert Redford or Paul Newman. You know, obviously Paul Newman's gone, but Paul Newman was in the business for a long time. Tom Hanks and all those guys that really have been in the business for a very long time. Um, and so with Clint Eastwood, when he makes a good film, that is saying something because he's been in the business for so long. He's done a couple clunkers along the way. For those who are going to see my basically worst of the year list, he's also made another film recently that I really didn't care for that you're going to see me mention when I get to that video. But back to The Mule. This is a very good movie. Not Clint Eastwood's best. So I would say whatever your favorite Clint Eastwood film is probably going to remain your favorite Clint Eastwood film. And whatever your least favorite Clint Eastwood film is going to remain your least favorite Clint Eastwood film. So it's definitely right in the middle where it's still a good film. Not quite in his best. Not quite in his worst. But good enough. Still in the other good films category. Just not probably going to be your favorite by the time it's done. But I think it's a very good film. So let's go over some positives and negatives as to what makes The Mule good. So for my positives for The Mule, you guys, this is a very tense experience. Whenever Clint is in a situation in the movie where it basically could cause him time behind bars, or it's a police officer kind of suspecting something iffy that he might be part of this drug cartel and so forth. It really is a very tense experience. The film is very good about establishing those kind of situations. The film also does have a sense of humor. I would say whenever the film goes into a category or a moment where it's Clint Eastwood's character trying to learn about smartphones or him trying to kind of be hip and happening with the older ladies at a gardening club, I think it works. I think the humor in this film works. Clint Eastwood's charisma definitely adds a lot to that moment whenever that happens. So the film's sense of humor I thought was very effective. I also thought for the first time in a long time, maybe outside of just Gran Torino and this one, this is probably where it's worked the best for Clint Eastwood over the past couple years is I feel like his age really benefited him in this movie. So making, because I think the real person that this was based on was like 90 years old when this happened. So the fact that Clint Eastwood's very old himself, I think definitely added to the role. He definitely even added a kind of elderly jester to the kind of role. Like whenever he's talking to somebody or lifting something or doing just things around the house. I feel like I'm watching, even though Clint Eastwood's very much in his later years, I feel like Clint is kind of adding on to the age that he's already at. So I feel like the way he portrayed the age of this character was very appropriate. So I definitely think he definitely chose the right kind of project for him to act in again, because he's definitely at a time of his life where he's either going to play the grandpa or just the old person. He's definitely not going to play the man with no name like in those old west films like he once did. So like I said, I think his age benefited him in this film because I definitely bought into it the way that he depicted this character in the movie. This film also showed how brutal drug cartels can be, and just how brutal that drug community is, how people can get killed for stupid reasons, and people can get killed for not trusting each other. And when something's behind on a timeline for them or on a schedule for them, that person gets in trouble for that. And so there's things that this film depicts that I think is very accurate to kind of how the drug community is today, probably too. So, I like how this film shows the brutality of that kind of community. The film also shows the goods and bads of smartphones. Even Clint Eastwood's character in one point in the movie says, when I was younger, basically you only went to a phone to make a phone call. Now people are just on their phone to be on their phone, and so there's a lot of moments in this film where I think he's kind of has some truth to that. I think there's even a scene where somebody almost runs into him. He's like, "Look, if he wasn't on his phone, this wouldn't have happened." And so there's moments like that where it's kind of true. I mean, the world is kind of ran by phones now. I mean, it used to just be something that we would just make phone call to phone call with, and now we do it for the internet, we do it for FaceTime, we do it for texting, we do it for literally everything now. And so I think the way whenever the film touches on smartphones, it kind of has a good point about the whole thing too. I also like how the film has a sense of mystery, though certain kinds of mysteries are left in a way that I wish could have been done better. But there is mystery in this film to the point where, how did that kid that told Clint Eastwood about the job know about the job, and where exactly is this tire company getting all this drugs that these guys work for? And so I like how this film has a sense of mystery, just enough of a mystery to keep me intrigued and for me to basically make it as a positive point for this review too. Now, for my negatives of the Mule and why I don't think it's quite, the next Unforgiven or the next Dirty Harry or the next The Good, the Bad, the Ugly or the next $1 Million Baby. Like I said it before, Clint Eastwood's made tons of great films. Why it's not quite in those league of films is why I'm basically about to get into that in just a second. So, for my negatives for the movie, I do think it is pretty slow paced. It does kind of take a long time to get from major point to major point. There's certain moments of the film I feel that could have happened earlier once they're explored. I feel like the pacing of this film is just a little too slow. I know a lot of Clint Eastwood's more recent films have been doing this. Maybe at his older age he'd like slower paced films. I felt this time around it just felt a little too slow. Another negative I have with the film, it is very repetitive. So unfortunately, if you don't like the scenes where he's picking up the drugs, he's driving off, he drops it off, he gets paid, the guy lands a joke with him. Unfortunately, there's a lot of scenes that play out like that. So it's one of those things where get comfortable with everything you're watching, because more than likely everything you're watching is going to be repeated at some point in time. It's a very repetitive film, unfortunately. I also thought the film kind of dragged when it reached the family moments. There's actually one moment I can't get into that would be spoiler territory, but what I can tell you is it involves Clint Eastwood's ex-wife in the story, and I felt like it just dragged ever. There's just certain moments in this film where he kind of slows down the drug cartel thing to be with family more, and some of these scenes drag on forever and forever and forever and forever, and they just keep going and going and going. And like I said earlier, it's very repetitive sometimes too. So some of the moments in this film, definitely regarding the family, just feel dragged on forever and ever and ever. So I thought that could have been better too. Those scenes really could have used a better editor, I thought too. Also, with a lot of film biopics like this, when they're based on real events, when you reach the end credits of the film, they kind of give you some details about the real thing that happened. This film didn't do that. It just it tells you the article that Clint Eastwood learned about this guy from, but they don't tell you like what exactly happened after the film ends, like once you reach the end credits of the movie. So I thought that could have been handled better because a lot of biopics today do this, and it's very interesting when they do that. That's definitely one thing I always get out of films that are based on true stories. So who is this really based on? What really happened? Where are they at now? If they're still alive and stuff like that. So unfortunately, this film didn't do that. And the friend that I saw this film with and I, we were both kind of disappointed as a result. So the end credits I thought could have provided more details for the viewer. There's also a lot of loose ends by the end of the film. You don't really find out what happens to this gang after all is said and done. You really don't find out what happened to all that money that Clint made through all these drug deals, really. There's just a lot of loose ends by the end of the film that I thought could have been explained better and wrapped up better, too. So for my overall thoughts of the Mule, guys, 8.5 out of 10 for me. I think it's a very good movie. I am going to recommend that you go out and see it. It's not the best of the year. It's definitely not Clint Eastwood's best film, but I think it's very good. Like I said, it's a very tense experience that really does a lot of good things and explains and explores a lot of good things like the goods and bads of smartphones and stuff like that too. But like I said, it's very slow paced, very repetitive. It drags a lot of loose ends by the end of the movie. And like I said, there really should have been more end credit details like a lot of biopics provide nowadays. And this film just didn't do it at all. So 8.5 out of 10 for me. I do recommend The Mule. Make sure to go see this one.